So Saturn entered Pisces yesterday and is conjunct Neptune. Um, and this conjunction has been like approaching for a little minute because the planets move slow. Um, and I was listening to the astrology podcast on the Saturn Neptune conjunctions in the past, and the themes, and a big theme is like barriers coming down, like dissolving barriers, and like revolutionary themes, which I can see that. But for me, I think on an interpersonal level, I've been really thinking about like the barriers of like Black people in love. And I think that this might also be highlighted because of this Venus retrograde happening right on top of this conjunction and Mercury retrograde. But I've been thinking about like what does it take for Black people to actually like be in love and flow in love and have loving relationships. And when I say Black people, I'm specifically talking about the descendants of enslaved Africans in America. Um, and just like, yeah, like the barriers that the extra barriers we have to go through to actually love ourselves, and then expand that love to the outside world. And what does that mean for our relationships, and our children and the generations that we're raising? Do we have tools to overcome those barriers? Like, because I feel like right now they're being highlighted. And I am just, I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about like, what does it take for Black people to love themselves in a world that like is designed to make them hate themselves and make us feel like we're less than? What does it take to have actual partnerships and relationships when we are fed unrealistic expectations by society? Like we aren't starting with the same tools and resources, so our partnerships and relationships aren't gonna look like what is portrayed on TV. Are the only things that are portrayed on TV are like love and hip hop. Like I'm trying to think of our housewives, our basketball wives, and yeah, just like what examples of love are we consuming? I think one good example in media that I really like that explored like different relationships and like conflict resolution was Queen Sugar. Um, I haven't watched it in a while, but the first time I watched it, I was I was intrigued by the conflict resolution and the conversations that they were having around topics that we would have conversations around, like addiction. And then after recovery or in recovery, what does that look like? What does building trust with the people around you look like? What does the people around you learning to trust you again, and like rebuilding a healthy relationship while also acknowledging what happened? I don't think that that is talked about a lot, and that is some of the conversations that we need to have, because that really has affected a lot of us. What is like incarceration? They talked about going to jail and like doing things to provide for your children and then ending up in jail. And they talked about those things and like overcoming those things, and like I don't know. I think it was one of the healthiest conversations in media around like those topics in real. Like it wasn't like sugar coated. It wasn't like one sided. It was very like well rounded conversations around those topics. And I do think that that is going to be more prevalent in media. I watched the movie Exhibiting Forgiveness, and that one was really, really good. With like talking about the the repercussions of addiction and how that affects your family and then generations, and then what does it actually take for the person who was affected, like a child growing up with a parent who was struggling with addiction, the things that you had to go through, the things that you've seen, and what does it look like to let go of those things and forgive, and let love flow between you and whoever, because I think that we have so much resentment built up as a people. Like, we don't, because we haven't had a chance to let go of shit, and like that resentment echoes in relationships, and it caused like strife and like a lot of like, I don't know, just so many barriers. And yes, I think with this Saturn Neptune conjunction in Pisces, for sure, I think is going to highlight a lot of that, and I think we're going to see more of it in media and in art in general. I also watched the documentary on like hip hop on Hulu. I can't remember the name of the documentary, but it was talking about Deb, Waka Flocka's mom, and Bimmy, and Big U, and Haitian Jack, who were very influential in hip hop in like the 90s, early 2000s, and just like how hip hop was birthed out of like just poverty and like trying to survive, and just trying to survive. It was birthed out of survival. Um, and just like the backstories to what we had to go through, our people, or the people who came before us had to go through. It makes me, yeah, that was a good ex- example, I think, of like showing all the sides, like showing how these people came up doing crime, like selling drugs, like in the drug game, like helping to destroy the community because they were trying to survive, trying to make some money, and trying to look flashy because they thought that's what life was about. And just how that birthed like a whole generation of hip hop, and just like really shaped like how we see hip hop now, in terms of like relating it to struggle, street life, and flashiness. So like, now that we have evolved from that place, like, what is it gonna sound like now? Like, what is it, how is it gonna be? And I think that like, I think that what we hear is gonna change, and the way that we consume media is gonna change, and the way that we allow ourselves to be portrayed is gonna change. Yeah, I lost my train of thought, so I think that's it.